we'll proceed to the Commissioner's report, which you should all have there. Peter.
Thank you. So I think the very first thing to say is that in the last 24 hours there's been the death of a cyclist in collision with a heavy goods vehicle in the Mile End Road, and also what appears to be a very serious injury of a cyclist in collision with a coach in Southampton Row. And I ought to say on behalf of everybody how much our sympathy goes to the families of the victims and relatives, and also the drivers. Leon is able to say a bit about the circumstances of the accident in the Mile End Road.
Sure. Yes, I've been to the scene of this one, which was 17:10 yesterday in the Mile End Road. This is a collision between a heavy goods vehicle, 4-axle tipper on Crossrail Business, travelling eastbound on the A11 towards Stratford. That is the route of Cycle Superhighway 2. The deceased, riding a bicycle, in fact, to the best of our knowledge, based on what we've seen so far and the CCTV evidence, came from a side road which comes south to the A11, and when you get to that particular point, all traffic is required to turn left because there's a median strip, but cyclists are allowed to turn right. And cyclists can turn right because they're protected by a traffic signal controlled pedestrian crossing to the west, it's a staggered crossing. So cyclists turning right, when those lights are red, can move to the centre of the road to a cut through that is provided, and then when the traffic towards the west stops from another pedestrian crossing, they can make the right turn. It appears from the debris field and the position of the body and the CCTV evidence which we have seen that the cyclist didn't use that facility and was in fact taking a shortcut across at about 45 degrees towards a pedestrian crossing to the west, so effectively was cycling against the flow of traffic immediately before the collision. The death, which would have been instantaneous from the injuries, skid marks on the road which we believe to be from the HGV, all suggest the collision was at some speed, but the driver, having been interviewed by the police, has not been arrested, and at this time there is no suggestion that there's anything wrong with either the vehicle or the behaviour of the driver of the HGV. The investigation is continuing. There's CCTV evidence from nearby buildings, also from one or two buses that were in the vicinity at the time, and obviously more information will become available. But that's everything we know as at 10 o'clock this morning.
So we've taken a view. Leon, to his great credit, has been to the site of the last 4 fatal accidents within an hour of them occurring. And we've taken the view now that actually we should say what we know, that there's no prejudicial, it's not prejudicial to a coroner's inquiry, it's not prejudicial to police prosecutions. We're desperately saddened for the victim and their relatives, but the controversy over these accidents is such that I think it's really important that we should say what we know now, because nobody will say any more about these accidents for several months until they get into the coroner's court. And if you look at my report on page 17, you'll see some paragraphs there about the recent inquests where it's taken a very long time for it to be put in the public domain, which my report does, that in fact the direct cause of the death of Paul Brian Dorling, for which we're desperately sad as well, and Leon and I have met his widow and family, was caused by both a heavy goods vehicle and the cyclist going through a red light together. Now you can speculate a lot on road design, and we accept that there's an obligation to us to design the highway and make it accommodate the people who use it to the highest standards. But actually we need to actually put into the public domain the circumstances so that people can get a relative feel about what's going on. As a matter of fact, I was not going to refer to anything in my report until page 17, but I was going to refer to that in any event. And if you'll indulge me, then I was, having drawn that to your attention, I was going to draw to your attention the bottom of page 25, where Vernon and others in the organisation have completed the migration of all our customer phone numbers to 0345